But no, you missed out on Patrick Mahomes. You missed out on Jalen Hurts. That's okay, because I have 5 super cheap quarterbacks in fantasy drafts coming at you right now. These guys, they have to be late round quarterbacks. They have to have rushing upside. That's what you need to win single quarterback leagues. And you also want the potential to get 2 of the top 5 players at the quarterback position. Think about it. Tom Brady put up 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns a couple years ago, and he was still outscored by multiple rushing quarterbacks. So we're not here to roster the flaccid Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff. Forget it. We need quarterbacks flying under the radar in fantasy football with top 5 upside. 12 years ago, Cam Newton finished his rookie year with a mind-boggling 24 fantasy points per game. How did he do it? 700 rushing yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. Now, what if I told you that Anthony Richardson is bigger, faster, and actually has the highest quarterback athleticism score in the history of Player Profiler? Richardson has the weapons. He has Jonathan Taylor, who's a menace in the screen game, Michael Pittman. He's been one of the most efficient outside playmakers in the NFL. Josh Downs averaged close to 100 catches in back-to-back years at UNC. Vegas has pegged Indy with a meager 6.5 win total. The team will be playing from behind frequently, which will force the ball into Richardson's hands, and knowing that he ran for 1,000 yards in less than 20 games, he also threw for 3,000 yards over that span, and that was with the worst weapons in college football. Imagine what Anthony Richardson can do in the NFL with actual weapons. I mean, Gardner Minshew will keep him on the bench for maybe 2 games. But what really matters is the fantasy playoff schedule. Steelers, Falcons, Raiders, Texans. Richardson looks like the ultimate rookie cheat code. And can someone explain to me why everyone hates Dak Prescott? In 2020, he was the #1 quarterback in fantasy before getting injured. Now, for the first time in years, he has a full and healthy preseason. He rushed for more yards in 2022 despite playing 4 fewer games than the year before. This year, I expect 300-plus rushing yards, 5-plus rushing touchdowns from one of the league's signature prolific quarterbacks. Think about the Cowboys offseason. They devastated the run game, just punted talent and bolstered the passing game by bringing in perennial 1,000-yard receiver Brandon Cooks. The Cowboys have developed a fast-paced identity to compete with the Eagles. This makes sense. Dallas was number 2 and number 3 in pace of play the last 2 seasons. With the Giants, Eagles, and Commanders all improving, they could be number 1 in pace of play this year. And Dak Prescott's accuracy rating was top 5 on Player Profiler for 2 consecutive years. And you know what happens when you're efficient with opportunity. Opportunity plus efficiency equals fantasy points. Dak should be a top MVP candidate, and it seems everyone in the football universe is so over him as he heads into a career year. Draft him in the double-digit rounds in fantasy football and thank me later. Now, I understand why so many hate Russell Wilson. I get it. From the push-ups on the plane and the awkward interviews, he feels like he's slipping into a Kardashian-style megalomania. The biggest problem was the lack of fantasy production. That really was the issue. He posted 9 weeks outside the top 20 quarterbacks last year. That's hard to do, especially from a player with 3 top 3 quarterback finishes on his fantasy resume. But a funny thing happened last year. After Nathaniel Hackett left, Wilson posted back-to-back 24-point performances to close out the season, and a deeper look at the advanced metrics shows that he was one of the most unlucky quarterbacks in the league. Wilson was top 5 in air yards per attempt, so he's pushing the ball downfield, but his receivers dropped an inordinate number of passes, and they developed close to league bottom yards after the catch. But drops and yak are less sticky than air yards and rush attempts, and Wilson was top 12 in QB rush attempts last year. So I expect a big mean progression this year, especially with a full offseason with the band back together. Judy, Sutton, Patrick, Dulcich. There are shootouts all over this AFC West schedule, and Russell Wilson is quietly teed up to smash. And we can't talk about Russell Wilson without talking about Geno Smith. I hope you're sitting down for this, but you can make a case that Geno Smith was the most efficient quarterback in the league last year and just got a massive weapon upgrade with Jackson Smith-Njigba and Zach Charbonnet. Just think about that. Think about that. A guy with a top 5 production premium on Player Profile, including top 5 deep ball completion percentage and top 5 pressured completion percentage. He was also ranked number 8 in QB rush attempts. Just got the biggest weaponry upgrade for any quarterback this offseason. He finished as the QB5 in fantasy and is now being drafted on Underdog and the FFPC as quarterback 15 plus. How is that possible? I have no idea, but sometimes the best value players are looking straight at you in plain sight. Which brings me to Kenny Pickett. Pickett, like most quarterbacks, struggled as a rookie, okay, but look deeper. He was actually number 1 on Player Profiler in deep ball and pressured catchable pass percentage. So he's throwing catchable passes deep and even when people are all over him. Quarterbacks score points with touchdowns and rushing production. And Kenny Pickett is poised to run for 5+ touchdowns after posting a shocking 11 red zone carries in just 13 games last year. Pickett posted a 75th percentile 40-yard dash, so he's fast, he has the weapons, all over the formation. You got Pickett at X, you got Deontay and Allen Robinson in the slot, you got Calvin Austin and his 4-2 wheels stretching the field, and don't forget about Pat Freiermuth moving the chains. And the AFC North is a shootout division. It could be the biggest shootout division in the whole league. Pittsburgh will lose a lot of games, and that means a lot of negative game scripts and a lot of Pickett garbage time heroics, which is exactly what fantasy gamers crave. So those are my top 5 sleeper quarterbacks in fantasy drafts. Now go get 10% off the all-in package on playerprofiler.com with code PODFATHER. You're welcome.